All right, so that concludes all of our presentations for the day by students. We are going to have some closing comments from my colleague, Dr. Mark Jacobsen. Before I hand it over to him, though, I just want to celebrate the fact that you all did it. So 12 months is not a ton of time for earning a master's degree, but you absolutely earned a master's degree. And the work that you've done on these capstone projects and over the course of the year matters a lot. I always think it's fascinating, and I talked to Kellen over the break about this, to see the different personalities of our cohorts come through. This year, nobody did IUU fishing or international fishing, and not a lot of fishing in general. No marine mammals. We have seen a lot more climate change, a lot more water quality, and a lot more on communities. And I think that that in itself is sort of data and makes sense to me. After today, you will join this tight-knit, successful, badass network of MAS MBC alumni, and you will be a part of it. Yes, it's worth cheering for the network. And you will lead in federal and state agencies, in NGOs, within academia, within foundations, in science communication, in places like Sacramento and San Diego and California and DC and in other countries around the world. And I know that you will take what you've learned both before you even got here and hopefully also while you were here, and you will exert your influence, because you will have influence to exert, to support and create a world that is inclusive and equitable and livable for future generations for a long time to come. And that will matter a lot too. So I just want to thank you for everything you've put into this year. And I can't wait, we all can't wait to see what you do next. So a round of applause for that. I do want to say a few more thank yous before I hand it over to Dr. Jacobsen. To all the folks who did the lighting and the recording and the live streaming and the technology, the AV folks, really want to thank you for your efforts today. I want to thank SIO department helpers like Tim, Dana, Shelly, Denise, Josh, Carla, and then of course Sarah and Lahini for their support. I do want to just again thank some of our faculty and staff like Dick, Stuart, Jen, Davi, Kiara Ausen, Ernie Brazier, Laura Engman, Mark Merrifield, Sarah Schaffler, Sarah Mesnick, Corey Gabriel, Beasy, and the many, many folks, Dave Rudy, and external folks that worked with our students, external from Scripps and UCSD. We really couldn't do it without your support, and we recognize that the investment you make in our students and the mentorship you provide is essential to the success of our students. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Mark Jacobsen, who will be speaking sort of on behalf of our faculty co-chairs. Both Greg Rouse and Mark Jacobsen are co-faculty co-chairs of this program. And I just have to say that, oh man, the last couple years have been so hard in this 12-month program to do, as an experiential, hands-on graduate program that is only 12 months long. It's been absolutely bananas to try to do it in a way where we ensure students who are getting the degree in 2020, 2021, and 2022, there's no asterisk, right? It's the same degree of all the cohorts before you. And you have earned the exact same degree, and I really don't think you've lost out on the training and the experience and the learning. So to facilitate that has been incredibly challenging, and it could not have been possible without the support and the work of both Greg and Mark. So with that, I'd like to give them both a round of applause and invite Mark up to give some closing comments.
So thanks. We don't have any of the sort of gowns and silly hats that go with graduation. I hear that's coming. We hope that's coming for all of you. I trust it is. But my congratulations. This always feels a little bit like graduation to me. And you've all accomplished just an incredible amount. So congratulations individually and as a group of 16. I think you accomplished something as a group too, not just your own achievements, but together. So look around and see what you've done and how it all sort of adds up and builds together. Your cohort represents this incredible diversity of experience, and I've seen it going all the way back to the admissions meetings and so on, which Samantha and others remember well, and we read those essays you wrote long before you knew what you know now. I always thought it would be interesting to see what people would write after if they sort of had another round of application essays to write. But really, for those of you just joining us, we saw it in Samantha's brilliant introductions of all of you, telling us sort of where you came from and how you're different and how you're together here now. I just wanted to comment for a few minutes on some themes that can't help but try to categorize things. I don't think most of you will probably like where you get categorized, but that's okay. I just wanted to sort of mention what I saw, today and what I took from it. So you're scientists, you're social scientists, you're artists, you're everything in between, and that's really the beauty of this program to me, is that it takes what we often as very sort of single-minded, single-tracked kind of academics think about, and through you, we can see it show up in weird ways and good ways for the most part, right? So you bring, no, I'm not gonna, all good. So Samantha, I'm actually going to start with fishing, even though Samantha said we didn't see too much fishing. But fishing is, by its nature, sort of the interaction that we think of between humans and the ocean. And so there were lots of things that I sort of learned about fishing. Chanel didn't talk about fishing per se, but she had that quote about humans as predators and sort of changing from one side to the other. What do we think about ourselves and our role in sort of in terms of taking from the ocean or trying to protect it? We control a surprising amount through fishing, but through the economy also. So Ali mentioned that the economy was sort of part of the cause of climate change, which is totally true. I also like to think that it's the way we can fix it as well, right? So it's, we come together with the world, we interface with it. A lot of it is through our actions in the economy. Doug helped us see what we know and much more importantly what we don't know about when it's safe to fish, how much we can take, what our projections are good for, what our projections are not good for, right? So a lot of the science we do, the economics we do, we think we've understood something in great depth, and then we go and say, okay, we can just fix it by pushing this button over here, or by limiting fishing, or whatever, and we find out we don't really know. So this is an important lesson. Griffin took us to innovation and the fishing technology itself, which wasn't a capstone I had thought we would see, and it was really cool, right? How can we improve the process, right? So as an economist, always trying to make things cheaper and less wasteful and more efficient. And here's an example of bringing that to fishing and the marine environment, trying to think about how do we recycle and how do we sort of bring things together. Ecosystems and species, individual species conservation are, of course, almost by definition, where science and humans, sort of human interactions come together. There's no way to understand one, sort of how ecosystems work or how we can conserve them without understanding the other, but sort of why people are doing what they're doing and how they interact. Ailish sort of gave us the very front edge of the science on some deep sea ecosystems. And so we know that there's lots of valuable commodities sitting at the bottom of the ocean. We think we know what those are worth, at least in the way we sometimes measure things. But what are the flora and the fauna and the ecosystem itself worth, and how do we figure that out? We need more microscopes and more people to see in them. I think Ailish probably doesn't want to see a microscope for a while, I gathered. Amanda brought us to the level of species, right? So albatrosses in particular, what do we know about these things and how they reproduce, and what humans have done to them through climate change, what we might continue to do to them. Sophie told us about the inner workings of corals. I was surprised. I don't know much about coral. Those of you who know me know, I mean, I study economics, right? Corals are fragile, right? Incredibly fragile in many ways. They live in these narrow temperature ranges and so on. And yet there's this amazing resilience that some of the species have the ability to kind of fill in and adapt. And so we need to learn about these things, again, in the name of sort of conservation and ecosystems. Melanie started the trip toward San Diego, and Samantha mentioned communities. The city of San Diego and the county of San Diego need to be supporters of the MAS program, I would think, going forward. We're telling them an incredible amount of exciting stuff about what happens here. And so Melanie told us about our wetlands. What do we have? What can we do with them? And so the aggregators this information, I think, is a role that you guys are really starting to fill. Continuing with the local theme, at the end of the day, all of the action of conservation happens at individual or local levels. Annie mapped out the details of sea level rise, adaptation, access, equity. There was, economics is often called the study of trade-offs or the study of scarcity, and it was just so clear in that study, right? That there's all these different agencies, there's all these competing uses of the coast. Here comes the ocean, right, to sort of mess with all those competing uses, and how do we deal with the increased scarcity in many ways and the trade-offs that are required. Sri, again, is sort of the macro and micro scale. Those of you who had economics know there's macro and micro, so everything I see is either macro or micro, right? So Sri is more micro, thinking about the sand, right? What comes of a beach, of our beaches. Beaches are crucial to the sort of the psychology, the community, what we have here in San Diego economically and ecologically, and so we learned about those. Moving on to us as people and individuals, we all try to live, or everyone in this room, I trust, tries to live a life that's more gentle and kind to the ocean and the world, and many of us do. And so how does that interact? Kat and Lindsay tackled it just head on, right? They said, well, here's this question. Businesses try to do stuff. People buying things from businesses try to do things. So what are the pieces that matter, and where can you start? If you're a business or you want to do something, or you know someone who's running a business, talk to Kat and Lindsay. They'll tell you where to start. How do you make it better? Casey told us about chefs doing good, being good to the ocean, and learning themselves. And that was what stood out to me there, right, is that this program is meant to help people feed themselves and their families through COVID, but it turned into this incredible educational thing about the chefs learning how to deal with local species, which presumably improves the market for them, which transitions to education, right? So that's the core of why we can serve, I think, and how we can reduce conflict and improve our society, sort of defined broadly. What we do at UCSD is education, and what a lot of you were studying was education as well. Asia studied sharks, and more importantly, or as importantly, she's showing other people how to study sharks and think about why they're so cool. And I made a special note in bold type here. I'm sold on sharks. They're really cool, okay? So pass that enthusiasm on, and that's sort of what education is about teaching people to like stuff. Lindsay B told us about mud, complete with toxins, being dredged up and moved offshore, right? So education isn't always about the things that are sort of the cool and exciting things. It's also about the things that are really important that are down in. And you can guess that Raquel fits here too, sort of digging the deepest here and talking about wastewater. In all seriousness, though, this is an incredibly understudied example of humans interfacing with the ocean. We don't know enough about this in particular, about how our own wastewater runs off and does damage and why. And last but not least, Ali showed us a way in immersive theater, sort of this incredibly creative way to see education as beautiful in its own right and show us what or how we can communicate what we've learned to people who don't necessarily learn the best in a classroom or with a book, right? There's so many ways to do education, and I hope that she will do many more going forward, and so will MAS the MAS cohorts. So it's almost time to go and celebrate, but there is something else. So this morning, Samantha thanked a long list of people who made the program possible, many, many panelists, lecturers, alumni, all the people behind the scenes, and just now she thanked a whole bunch more people, sort of this incredible list. But of course, there is work to be done, and I think part of my job is to make sure we do that. So where do we begin about Samantha running this program and thanking her for making it all happen? If you think about it yourself, put yourself in my shoes, or what would you say that Samantha did that was great? You wouldn't even know where to begin. Presumably, there are so many things, right? So she's teacher, she's mentor, she's coordinator. She made today happen. She made it all happen, and it's come together just incredibly well. She works tirelessly, as I'm sure you know. From my own perspective of seeing this program evolve over many years, I can say that it's never been better, right? It just keeps on growing. Samantha, she finds ways to bring new pieces from scratch. She's innovated on the very best of what she's developed before and what others have developed before. And somehow she's been doing that even though we need to adapt to all kinds of crazy things that might come along. Like, I'm sure you had your pandemic planning going a few years ago. Who knows what else we might face, right? It feels like that, right? It feels like she just sort of knows what's coming and how to make it work. And she makes it look easy, but I think if we all just sort of think for a second, it is not at all easy. And so now it's time for applause. So thank you so much. And that's it. It's a great day. Now we'll celebrate. So it was really, really good. Thank you.